All right, guys, this is Northwest Central coming back at you on the YouTube video. And man, I really do appreciate all the love and support so far. I got some great videos coming out on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your thoughts. But I know I'm all about positivity for Florida State, their football recruiting, as well as just the football news in general that I have on YouTube, as well as my social media accounts. But today is not one of those days, and I'm going to be sharing some positivity. Unfortunately, it's going to be something negative that Florida State fans are probably not going to enjoy too much. And that's because four-star offensive lineman and offensive guard is the recruit DaJohn Yarborough is actually going to be committing to California. That's a big miss for Florida State. Out of Chandler, Arizona, he's been a guy that Florida State's been on for quite some time. 6'5", 340 pounds. He's a guy that Florida State really likes. The coaching staff was on very early. You even saw in the Moore Center where the coaching staff was basically just giving him this huge ovation, basically just cheering him on, wanting him and making him feel like a priority. He was able to visit early on in the summer for Florida State for his official visit. And you had other schools like California, Mississippi State, as well as Washington also. And coming from that West Coast area, it is always a dangerous situation for Florida State to get involved. You want to see Florida and Georgia prospects get involved there, and you really want to see Florida State get more involved with some offensive line recruits. Now, obviously, you got 5 offensive lineman prospects last year in the last year's recruiting cycle, but they were 3 stars. They were really developing that. They need to kind of develop their skill sets a little bit more. But you saw the potential. You saw they were bigger maulers. You wanted to have the bigger body types, and that's what Yarborough was. The problem is Herb Hand is a pretty good developer. He's been in some Power 5 schools before. He's been around the block in his coaching career, so this is nothing new for him. He wants to develop talent and being able to get those guys up to speed. But the problem that you've seen from Alex Atkins to now over to Herb Hand is, when are you going to get these recruits on the field? You're going to see maybe an Andre Otto this year, maybe even a Jaden Todd, Jonathan Daniel, Sandman Thompson. You got some contributors that possibly can be in the rotation for 2026. Otto is probably your one guy that's probably going to be in your starting rotation as a homegrown recruit rather than just being a transfer. But it has to be looking like a bad look whenever you're seeing this much transfer portal usage to your offensive line. And even though the offensive line did a pretty solid job last year with Micah Pettis and Luke Pettibone and guys like that, you really don't have that much to really sell on. The last couple of years specifically have not really been great for Florida State. The 22 offensive line is probably your better offensive line that you had, and 25's offensive line was pretty solid too. 23 had some pieces, but as we know, that offense kind of stuttered down the stretch, as you've seen before the Jordan Travis injury. But I just think there's a lot going on for Florida State right now in recruiting. And it all comes down to the fact of Mike Norvell. You got to figure out what his job security is at this point. Is he safe? Is he going? They had that vote of confidence at the end of the year for the administration after they said they were going to make a comprehensive assessment. And then Mike Norvell comes back into the fold after losing to NC State. And you thought, okay, maybe they can go 6-6 and go to a bowl game. Then you get embarrassed by Florida at the end of the year with the interim head coach, and you're trying to figure out ways to go. Now, the biggest thing is, too, Mario Cristobal has emphasized the trenches for offensive and defensive line. He's done a really good job so far. And even Miami, to my wildest dreams now, went to the national championship game last year against Indiana. They lost, but they were able to get there. And I understand the new age of NIL is a big factor in all of it. I know Miami likes to spend a lot of money on everything that they can. And surely Cal probably did the same thing. They probably spent a lot of money too. It's a great educational school also. He's from the West Coast over there. So I think it's going to be a factor of what Florida State does. But the thing is, Yarborough was one of the only considerable offensive linemen that they had coming for an official visit that they were really interested in. That is a concern. I mean, you're going to have more offensive linemen come in and being able to visit to have a chance with some of these guys. Now, the problem is that you're running into, too, is not that you're having to get some of these guys maybe that aren't committed to schools or maybe even committed to schools to flip over to Florida State and get interested in Florida State. You're going to have to use those official visits. You're going to have to use the SMU games, the Clemsons, the different things like that to get these kids interested. And then on top of it, too, if Mike Norvell doesn't make it through this season and then you're able to bring in another coaching staff, what happens to the rest of this coaching staff? What happens to Herb Ham? What happens to all these guys that are in the coaching staff right now? What will happen to some of these recruits? Will they be able to kind of join over? Hopefully, I want Norvell to kind of stay around. I want him to be successful. I want everybody at Florida State to be successful. I want us to have a productive winning season in 2026 and continue that sustainability as we go out throughout the next couple of years and everything. But the problem is, Florida State's got to get in a better spot. This is a terminology of the fact of Florida State's probably not winning well. They're probably not developing high school recruits on the offensive line or just in general in the trenches right now. And you have to see some guys step up in those trenches. And you're hopefully going to see Andre Otto and hopefully you're going to see DaJohn Yarborough be pursued still, even when he's committed to Cal, and don't give up on this recruitment until the very end. But I hope that Florida State's able to generate some recruiting news as we have a Tayshaun Poole coming up from Macon, Georgia, the four-star safety, a top 100 prospect, deciding between Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida State. It's got to be a recruitment that Florida State's got to be able to grab in this, and they cannot go 0-2 in this because having no Yarborough is really big because John Garrett has always emphasized the importance of player acquisition, and you need to be able to get Yarborough in this class, even though he did commit to a California on today's date. But I really appreciate all the love and support so far. It's a blessing to continue to do these YouTube videos and share my positive community with Florida State fans. Be sure to follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I got it all. You name it. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. And as always, go Noles.